Hey Reggie, thanks for meeting up with me today and participating in this little Q&A on, I guess, my mentorship. So I appreciate you coming. I just got about 10 questions to ask, but first I want to ask where people know your background because your background is really not sales. You had a different kind of background. So if you don't mind, kind of tell that a little bit, just where you came from, and then also from there, how long we've probably worked together.
Okay.
So you can start there.
Yeah, I come from a background of law enforcement. I was a police officer here in the city of Philadelphia. We got connected about 2.5 years ago. I was online looking for what my next step was going to be. I knew that I wanted to be financially independent and I didn't want to be working for anybody. I was looking for a career that gave me the lifetime balance, flexibility. And I saw an ad in the paper and then I responded. And then that's how you and I got connected.
Okay, I appreciate that. And would you say income wise, you're probably doing a little better than you used to be?
Most definitely. And I've not even hit my stride yet. I think I have a lot to look forward to in terms of when I really, really, really hit, everything on full cylinder. But I've been very pleased thus far.
I know that obviously police officers, I tried to get on in the city here years ago. I know they don't pay a lot. I know that you're in a dangerous position for little money is the way I used to look at it. And you're probably doing a lot better than that. And the other thing you said was, I guess down the road potential, you probably feel that like I do, you really don't have a cap in sales. You get paid what you're worth. You can make as much money as you want as long as you're putting in the activity, right?
Yes, sales to me, I read that a long time ago that this is one of the industry you can either give yourself a raise or take money away from yourself. I like the idea that I can actually control my income.
Awesome. And that's what I found too. And I know years ago when I got into sales, a lot of times, and I think a lot of people struggle with going from hourly to commission. It's kind of a mind shift, because a lot of people like that security blanket. And in the police department, I don't you guys probably got a salary, right?
Yes.
So you kind of knew what you were going to get from week to week. This we don't sales. We really don't know what we're going to get week to week, but we know that as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do, plugged into a system, you got lead flow, you got people to talk to, and then present to, and your skills as far as sales go, they're phenomenal. I mean, you came from the background you came from, and now you're really rocking the sales out. So now it's kind of like sky's the limit. You can make as much as you want as long as you're doing the things that it requires.
Yeah, I believe it's like what I was struggling with at the beginning is the unknown. Just like you mentioned earlier, a lot of folks like the security of having a paycheck week to week, but you don't realize with that comes a lot of uncertainty. Then you always have to wonder what happens if there's a budget cut. What happens if I get injured and I'm no longer able to perform my duties physically? And I read somewhere that salary is a drug that company gives you so that way you can forget about your dream. As long as you're really working for somebody, you really are not secure as you might think you are.
No, that's right. I remember hearing that too. That's a very good point. So let's get into some questions. Question number one, can you describe how your mindset has changed since we started working together?
So I come from a background of very rigid, meaning there are a lot of things that you can do and there's a lot of things that you cannot do, right? So I felt like I was backed into a corner prior to us meeting. The mindset shift to me was transferring from years of expecting a salary, knowing what I was going to make versus venturing into the unknown. And once I realized that I control my destiny, I didn't have to ask for permission. I didn't have to ask for a raise. I could, if I needed an extra $1,000, I knew what I needed to do in order for me to get it. So that meant I'm in control of my destiny more than I thought I was by having a set amount of money coming in every month or every week. But now the fact that there's no cap, I get paid for what I'm worth. It's kind of like a basketball player or professional athlete, right? Some of them make a lot of money, some of them don't. And the only reason is the value. So now I'm able to shift my mindset from putting the value on my own performance. And I know if I do what I need to do, that sky was going to be the limit. And to me, that's more exciting than knowing, okay, I have this set amount of money coming in and I have to work within the perimeters. That mindset that if I need something, I can actually go out and cultivate it. And that has really helped me tremendously because I didn't know that was possible.
Awesome. Awesome. Second question, how have your sales skills evolved through our coaching sessions? And could you share a specific example?
Sales is the oldest profession in America. Before I got started with you, my misconception about sales was just that I'm pushing a product that folks didn't need. So with meeting with you on our weekly trainings and the book suggestions, and you also sharing your background with me, where you came from and how you got to be where you were, I realized that it was more about helping people than selling. And with the training, it was more so education. And it is so easy in terms of the concept that folks tend to overlook it and make it more complicated than it needs to be. Because if you go to a mindset as I'm going to help a lot of people, and the more people I help, eventually I'm going to get what I want. So when the approach is from an education standpoint, it's really not sales, because people need our product. It's just a matter of educating them and make sure that they understand the need and point them out what would happen if they don't get our product.
And that's so important. And you're right. There's a lot of people that miss that. And until they make that shift in their mind, people can smell a salesman, right? They know what's going on. But if you approach it where you just want to help somebody, that can make a significant difference. I like that. All right, next question. Overcoming challenges. What was your biggest challenge you faced before our coaching, and how did our work together help you overcome it?
The biggest challenge I faced was figuring out what my identity was, because my identity up until that point has been law enforcement. I live and breathe law enforcement, and that's all I knew, and I was really good at it, and I was very proud of that. So I did not know if I was able to transition from one career path to the next. That was going to be my biggest challenge, because I was venturing into the unknown. And the biggest takeaway I got from our coaching session is the mindset shift. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it is exactly what it is. Because I realized all of the barriers were only coming from me. It was not coming from the industry. It was not coming from anything else. It was just from me. It was me not believing that I can start all over and be just as good. It was just me knowing, can I really do this? Am I going to have the anxiety of not knowing whether or not I'm going to get a paycheck this week or next week? And I believe that because you kept reiterating those facts, we kept training about mindset, different approach, and I had to actually challenge myself to become a sponge and not resist, because the blueprint is there. So our coaching session to me felt like, I always use sport as an analogy. So you'll get someone who plays one position and they go in and the coach realize, hey, you know what? You'll be better suited for this position. And they fight it at the beginning. And the next thing you know, they're in the Hall of Fame with the new position. And I think that's what you did for me in our coaching session. You actually took me from a mindset of no can do to a mindset that, yes, I can.
Awesome. And yes, you can. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Goal setting and achievement. How has the goal setting process we implemented impacted your ability to achieve your professional objectives?
For going back to us meeting, as you keep reading, you have a calendar. If you do not write it down, it's really fictional. I remember one time you said goals are created twice, or dreams are created twice, once in a mind and second in reality. I had absolutely no idea what this training was about, but if you can see here, this is my journal, and I have my income goal right here. And every day or every week I wake up and I want to challenge myself to the point where not only I want to beat my goal, but I'm also exceeding my goal. The goal setting is you can have a goal in your head or whatnot, but if you're not constantly looking at it, reviewing it, measuring yourself, I think it's just a fool's errand.
I like that. I like the goal that you have. That's a good goal. And you write it down and you look at it and you know what you got to do to get there. That's the important thing, is knowing the direction you're going and how to get there and what you're going to accomplish. All right. Now we're kind of getting into client interactions. How has your approach to client interactions changed since we focused on enhancing your communication and relationship building skills?
Again, coming from my background, I used to deal with crisis. Right now, when I meet with my client, it's more of an education standpoint. And my number one objective is, how can I help this individual? If I cannot help them, how do I give advice for them to seek counsel or different product that may suit their needs? So right now, I don't look at my clients as dollar signs. I look at them as an opportunity for me to educate them on something that they did not know existed. And in that approach, not only is better because our interactions are more genuine and I do not come off pushy or salesy. And as a result of that, I think people connect with me more than they did when I first got started, when I was only looking at them as a dollar sign.
No, that's very good. Confidence boost. Can you talk about a moment when our coaching significantly boosted your confidence in your abilities?
Well, it's actually twice. And I always talk to anybody I know about you. And I was trying to find a forever home, and I started looking into this industry for about maybe a year prior to you and I getting together. And I'm not sure if you remember our very first meeting. I was pretty much very, very down, and then you didn't feed off of my emotion. You stayed true to who you were because I thought I had literally botched that interview because of my mindset. I was very frustrated with the industry, but you kept your cool, you kept your tonality, and regardless, you were not mirroring my negativeness. And then I remember you asked me flat out, what was the reservation? And I said to you that a lot of folks sell me these pipe dreams, and I don't know if I can really truly believe and invest into this industry. Maybe it's not for me. And you've done something that I have never seen anybody done. You actually shared with me the income potential. You are the only person that did that. And I've always believed that by you doing that, what I got from that interview was that you're one of those leaders that lead from up front. And one of my favorite character in Greek mythology is Alexander the Great, because Alexander used to put this red helmet. He wanted everybody to know that he was on the battlefield with them. So he never asked his guys to do anything that he was not willing to do. So that was number one when you showed me that. And I said, okay, my question to you at that point was, I'll do whatever you tell me to do if this is the kind of money that I'm going to get. And that's number one. The second one was our first week out of training. And I believe I went out on Monday or Tuesday it was, and the entire week I was getting shut down. But every time I called you, you never let me believe that I was a failure. You kept pumping me up, you kept pumping me up, you kept pumping me up to the point where I was the Sunday, which was my very, very last appointment. And I called you right after I got the deal. And then you said, oh, you have a calculator? And I said, yes. And I pulled out the calculator and you did the numbers with me. And you said, that's how much you just made. And I was like, what? You're kidding. And I think your son had a similar experience. And when that happened, it was just like game on.
That's awesome, man. No, that's a good story. And I'm glad you remembered those moments. And now I just need to go buy a red helmet.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome, man. And I think sometimes a lot of people don't believe things, right? I mean, because they have been sold pipe dreams, they've been lied to, things like that. That's one of the things that I can truly say is it is what it is. There is no smoke and mirrors. And then it's great when there's an opportunity like that, when you made that sale, and then I say, okay, let's do the math, right?
Yeah.
All right, this is scheduling type stuff, work-life balance. How has our coaching helped you manage work-life balance and reduce stress in your daily routine?
Um, well, that one is pretty simple, right? Because we know we have our scheduled Monday meetings, right? So we know, since we know that's coming, we block that off, right? Then we have our meeting with you. So we know that's coming, we block that off, right? So we don't never have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have the time available. And then to the statement I made earlier that you lead from up front, you work with a calendar. So if it's good enough for you, why is it not good enough for us? So because of that, I kind of mirror what you're doing, right? You schedule your gym time, you schedule your calling time, you schedule this, you schedule that. By doing that, it kind of gives you an expectation of something to look forward to, right? As opposed to completing a to-do list versus I got to do a chore that I don't want to do, right? Because you can wake up in the morning. I know for me, I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is look at the calendar and say, okay, what I have going on, right? I have a meeting at X, Y, and Z, therefore I have to prepare for this, right? I have to go to the gym as opposed to just waking up and just go to the gym. I schedule it, so now I have something to look forward to for that specific hour. And by doing that, it's kind of like following a GPS, right? So you plug in the destination and you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to go, right? But if you deviate from that and the GPS keeps telling you rerouting, right? Because you have it on the schedule, so you know that it needs to get done. So it's just one of those tasks that if it's on the schedule, that it's just an important task. Instead of sitting down and waste 2-3 hours watching Netflix and do some mindless things that's not going to help, why not schedule a relaxation time? So that way you know, okay, you know what? This is the relaxation time, and actually get to enjoy it as opposed to feeling guilty that I'm doing it and not doing a more pressing task.
Very good. And I wish everybody knew how important scheduling is. I know a lot of people are starting to implement it. That is one thing I want to say out of everything I've ever done. If anybody's in sales, if anybody's on a commission paid job, or if anybody just wants to organize their life, just implementing a schedule, I think would change that person's life. I mean, the schedule is a very important component of life, really, you know? All right, continuous learning. How have you embraced the concept of continuous learning and self improvement? It doesn't have to be necessarily plugged into me and my trainings that I have weekly, but kind of expand on that.
Well, if you're not improving, you're stagnant, right? So how do you measure yourself, right? How do you know that you're better off today than you were yesterday? And I don't mind, to me, I think it's very dangerous because you can stay complacent. And complacency kills, right? It was the same thing when I was in law enforcement. If you get complacent, it could mean life or death. I think the challenge that you put up in terms of reading half an hour a day or whatever the case is. And I actually have to stress that reading is definitely fundamental. I know it's very basic, but when you read, to me, what I found was I read several different books, and everyone else seems to me that they have the same consistent message. So what I took out of that is the blueprint is already being provided. Professional athletes practice. They go to training camp. They want to be better. They want to keep the conditioning. Because the one time I kind of slacked away from it and I thought, oh my gosh, what is happening? And all I had to do was go back to the basic because there were steps I was skipping. My job is to get better, right? If you're not being better, I mean, that means like keeping up with the industry. And sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's just like kind of like a little tweak, right? Kind of like going to a chiropractor and then kind of like get a readjustment. If you're not willing to be coachable and be a sponge, I think whatever happened is your own fault.
Yeah, that's right. So that's why I wanted you to expand on it rather than me try to get you to say a certain thing because everything you said is 100% true and accurate and important. I teach fundamentals. I teach things that if everybody plugged in and they did it like I do it or how I teach it, they will improve. And I think the most important thing is continuously learning, even if it's a little bit each and every day. It's an audible, something you read, a video, more sales techniques, more psychology. I mean, all of those things play into sales. And I think if you just stay plugged in and learn just something each and every day, you got that continuous growth like you're talking about. And there's no way to be stagnant. You're just always improving. So I'm glad you elaborated on that. Next, we've got two left. Success stories. Can you share a success story where the strategies we discussed directly led to a positive outcome for you and maybe one or more of your clients?
Well, my success story is that I was able to shift the mindset because I didn't know that that was possible. And to me, willing to be humble, to actually come in with zero expectation and not with the negativity, and to actually see the transformation was a success within itself. And the second part is probably more personal because I see the difference in my income. From the first time the year I started with you to the second year, I made a difference of $50,000 more than I did the year before. So to me, that's a success in terms of I'm seeing the fruit of the labor, right? I'm seeing the results of doing the work. So it's kind of like if you wanted to lose weight, right? And then, you don't change your diet or you don't exercise or whatever. It's just kind of like a moot point. Now, the success with my client is because I've changed my approach from a teaching approach versus a sales approach. Even if I was in a situation where I could not help one of my clients, they will send me a referral because even though I was not able to help them because of whatever their circumstances were, they knew their friends or family or coworkers will be in a better place by having coming in contact with me. And to me, those are the days that I give myself a pat on the back and said, attaboy, in terms of going back to what I said, if you help enough people get what they want, you're eventually going to get what you want. And that was a Zig Ziglar quote.
Yeah, and I live by that quote. That's probably one of my favorites. All right, last question. Future aspirations. Looking ahead, how do you plan to continue leveraging the skills and mindset shifts that we've worked on to further your career and your personal growth?
Well, I believe that I cannot be selfish with the knowledge because you are not selfish with it. And the reason why a lot of people enjoy working with you is you truly are a transparent person. At the time we met, I was looking for a mentor, and I think a lot of us have found that in you. But aside of that is, okay, now that you've shown us the way, or you're kind of like guiding us, then how am I going to help the next generation? So eventually I would like to be in a place where you are, so that way I can be available to folks and coaching them, or folks that are scared about starting over. So I want to be a blueprint or a role model for those people. And again, by building my agency or my team, I'm eventually going to get the financial cost.
Awesome, man. That's cool, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll have to make note of that. This was a good time to kind of tell me that, right?
That is what it is.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time with me. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.